Hello, welcome back to our another English learning podcast. Have you ever said yes to something when you really wanted to say no? Have you ever apologized even though you knew you had done nothing wrong? Or maybe someone made you question your own memory. They said, "I never said that," even though you clearly remembered hearing those words. If you have experienced any of these situations, then you may have been manipulated. Manipulation is everywhere. It happens in friendships, relationships, families, schools, workplaces, advertisements, and even on social media. The most surprising part is that manipulation is not always loud, aggressive, or easy to notice. In fact, the most dangerous manipulators often appear kind, calm, and caring. They do not control you by force. They control your emotions. They make you feel guilty. They make you doubt yourself. They slowly influence your decisions until you believe those decisions were your own. That is why manipulation is so powerful. Today, we are going to explore the dark psychology of manipulation. By the end of this podcast, you will recognize the hidden signs that many people ignore. You will understand why manipulators behave this way, why intelligent people can also become victims, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself. So, make yourself comfortable, relax, improve your English, and let's begin. Imagine you have a friend who always asks for favors. At first, you happily help them. You lend them money, give them your time, and support them whenever they need you. But one day, you become busy. You politely say, "I'm sorry, I can't help today." Instead of understanding, your friend becomes upset. They say, "Wow, I thought you cared about me." Suddenly, you feel guilty. You start wondering if you are a bad friend. Maybe you should cancel your own plans. Maybe you should help after all. Without shouting, without threatening, without forcing you. They changed your emotions. This is one of the simplest examples of manipulation. Now imagine another situation. A husband forgets his wife's birthday. When she tells him she feels hurt, he laughs and says, "You are too sensitive. You always make small things into big problems. You are imagining things." After hearing this again and again, she begins to doubt herself. Maybe she is overreacting. Maybe she is the problem. This type of manipulation has a name. It is called gaslighting. We will talk about it later because it is one of the most dangerous forms of emotional manipulation. Many people think manipulation is something only criminals do. But that is not true. Manipulation is much more common than most people realize. Sometimes parents manipulate their children. Sometimes children manipulate their parents. Sometimes bosses manipulate employees. Sometimes friends manipulate friends. Sometimes couples manipulate each other without even realizing it. This doesn't always happen because people are evil. Sometimes people manipulate because they are insecure. Sometimes because they are afraid of losing someone. Sometimes because they want power. And sometimes because manipulation is all they have ever learned. Psychologists believe that many manipulative behaviors begin during childhood. Imagine a little boy who cries every time he wants a toy. Eventually, his parents give him the toy. His brain learns an important lesson. If I create enough emotion, I get what I want. Years later, he may not cry anymore. Instead, he may use guilt, or silence, or anger. The method changes. The goal stays the same. To influence other people. This doesn't mean every child becomes manipulative, but it shows how our experiences shape our behavior. Now let me ask you another question. Why do manipulators rarely use direct force? Because force creates resistance. Imagine someone points a finger at you and says, "You must do this." Most people immediately become defensive. They say no. They protect themselves. But manipulation works differently. Instead of saying, "You must do this," a manipulator says, "I guess I just expected more from you." Or, "It's okay, forget it." Or, "I'll do it myself." These simple sentences sound harmless, but they create guilt. They make you feel responsible. And before you realize it, you change your decision. That is why manipulation is often invisible. It attacks emotions instead of logic. Our emotions are powerful. When we feel guilty, we stop thinking clearly. When we feel afraid, we make quick decisions. When we feel lonely, we trust the wrong people. Manipulators understand this. Some understand it naturally. Others learn it through experience. They know exactly which emotion to trigger. Think about advertisements for a moment. Many advertisements do not simply sell products. They sell emotions. A perfume advertisement does not only show perfume. It shows confidence, popularity, beauty, success. The message is hidden. If you buy this product, people will admire you. Whether that message is true or not is another question. But it influences millions of people every day. That is emotional manipulation. Social media also uses similar techniques. Have you noticed how many posts make you feel like everyone else has a perfect life? Perfect vacations, perfect relationships, perfect bodies, perfect careers. After watching enough of these pictures, many people begin comparing themselves with others. They feel unhappy, not because their life became worse, but because someone else's life looked better. This is another form of psychological influence. Not every influence is manipulation, but when someone intentionally changes your emotions to control your behavior, manipulation begins. Here's something that surprises many people. Being intelligent does not protect you from manipulation. In fact, intelligent people can sometimes be easier to manipulate. Why? Because they often believe they cannot be manipulated. They trust their own judgment so much that they ignore small warning signs. Manipulation does not happen all at once. It happens slowly, very slowly. Imagine putting 1 drop of water into a glass every minute. At first, nothing seems different. But after enough time, the glass becomes full. Manipulation works in exactly the same way. Small lies, small guilt, small pressure, small emotional games, day after day, week after week, month after month. Until one day, the victim realizes they no longer feel like themselves. They have lost confidence. They doubt every decision. They apologize all the time. They constantly seek approval, and they don't understand how it happened. The frightening part is that manipulation often begins with kindness. Not anger, not violence, not shouting, kindness. Some manipulators become incredibly generous at the beginning. They give gifts. They give compliments. They make you feel special. They make you believe you have finally found someone who truly understands you. This creates emotional dependence, and once they know you trust them completely, everything begins to change. The compliments become criticism, the attention becomes control, the kindness becomes guilt, and the freedom you once had slowly disappears. But by then, many victims stay because they keep hoping the kind person from the beginning will come back. Unfortunately, that person may never have existed at all. The first manipulation technique is called gaslighting. This is one of the most dangerous forms of emotional manipulation because it attacks something very important: your reality. Imagine that you clearly remember a conversation. You remember the words. You remember the place. You even remember how you felt. But the other person looks directly into your eyes and says, "That never happened. You're imagining things. Your memory is terrible. You're too emotional." At first, you disagree. You know what happened, but after hearing these sentences again and again, something changes. You begin to question yourself. Maybe I remembered it wrong. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I really am too sensitive. This is exactly what the manipulator wants. They don't want to win the argument. They want you to stop trusting your own mind. Once that happens, controlling you becomes much easier. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle while someone keeps secretly moving the pieces. Eventually, you stop trusting your own ability. Gaslighting works in the same way. It creates confusion, and confused people are easier to control. Now let's move to another common technique: guilt tripping. This is something almost everyone has experienced. Imagine your friend asks you to help them move to a new apartment. You already have an important family event. You politely say, "I'm really sorry, but I can't come." Instead of accepting your answer, they say, "Wow, I didn't know our friendship meant so little to you." Or, "Forget it, I'll remember this when you need me someday." Or, "I guess I always help people, but nobody helps me." Notice something interesting. They never directly ask again. Instead, they make you feel guilty. And guilt is one of the strongest human emotions. Many people will change their decision simply to make that uncomfortable feeling disappear. The manipulator understands this. They know that if they can make you feel guilty enough, you will control yourself. The next technique is called love bombing. This one is especially common in romantic relationships, but it can also happen in friendships or even at work. Imagine meeting someone new. Within just a few days, they tell you, "I've never met anyone like you. You're perfect. You're my soulmate. I can't imagine my life without you." They send messages all day. They buy gifts. They give endless compliments. They make you feel like the most important person in the world. At first, it feels wonderful. Who wouldn't enjoy feeling loved? But here's the hidden problem. Healthy relationships grow slowly. Trust takes time. Respect takes time. Love takes time. Manipulators often skip all of that. They create an emotional connection as quickly as possible. Why? Because emotionally attached people become easier to influence. Once you're deeply attached, the behavior changes. The messages become less frequent. The compliments disappear. The attention becomes criticism. Now you're confused. You miss the person they used to be. So you work harder to make them happy again. Without realizing it, they now control your emotions. This cycle keeps repeating. Kindness, distance, kindness, distance. The victim keeps chasing the feeling they experienced at the beginning. Now let's talk about another manipulation tactic that looks surprisingly innocent. Playing the victim. We all face difficult times. Everyone deserves compassion, but manipulators use sadness as a weapon. Imagine confronting someone because they lied to you. Instead of apologizing, they begin talking about how stressful their life is, how nobody understands them, how everyone is always against them. Suddenly, the conversation changes. Instead of discussing their mistake, you're now comforting them. Your problem disappears. Their feelings become the center of attention. This is not always intentional. Some people honestly struggle with accepting responsibility, but experienced manipulators know exactly how to shift attention away from their behavior. The next technique is something many people don't recognize until it's too late. The silent treatment. Imagine having an argument with someone. Instead of discussing the problem, they completely ignore you. No messages, no calls, no eye contact, nothing. Hours become days. Days become weeks. You begin feeling anxious. Did I do something wrong? Should I apologize? Maybe I should fix this. Eventually, you apologize, even if the argument wasn't your fault. Silence became a punishment. The manipulator didn't need to shout. They simply used your fear of losing the relationship. Humans naturally dislike rejection. We are social creatures. Being ignored activates emotional pain in the brain. Manipulators understand this instinctively. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Now here's a manipulation trick that almost everyone falls for at least once. Flattery. Most people enjoy compliments. There's nothing wrong with saying, "You did a great job," or "I'm proud of you." Healthy compliments are honest. Manipulative compliments have a purpose. Imagine your boss says, "You're the most reliable employee in this company." Naturally, you feel proud. Then comes the next sentence. "Could you stay 3 extra hours tonight?" The compliment wasn't the goal. The extra work was. The praise simply lowered your defenses. Advertisers use similar techniques. Influencers use them. Even some salespeople use them. They first make you feel special. Then they ask for something. Understanding this pattern doesn't mean becoming suspicious of everyone. It simply means asking yourself one important question. Is this compliment genuine, or does it come with a hidden price? One of the most dangerous things about manipulation is that each technique seems harmless by itself. One guilty sentence doesn't seem dangerous. One lie doesn't seem dangerous. One ignored message doesn't seem dangerous. One small compliment doesn't seem dangerous. But manipulation is rarely about one moment. It's about patterns. Patterns repeated over weeks, months, sometimes years. Imagine a spider building a web. One thread seems weak. It can easily break. But thousands of threads together create something much stronger. Manipulation works the same way. Each emotional trick is one tiny thread. Eventually, the victim feels trapped inside a web they never noticed being built. And perhaps the saddest part is this. Many victims continue defending the very person who is manipulating them. Not because they're weak, but because manipulation changes the way people think. It creates confusion, hope, fear, guilt, and emotional dependence. Little by little, the victim begins believing that leaving the relationship would hurt more than staying. That is why manipulation is so difficult to recognize from the inside. From the outside, people often ask, why don't they just leave? But when you're inside the situation, nothing feels simple anymore. Your emotions become stronger than your logic. And that's exactly where manipulators want you to be. Most people enjoy compliments. There's nothing wrong with saying, "You did a great job," or "I'm proud of you." Healthy compliments are honest. Manipulative compliments have a purpose. Imagine your boss says, "You're the most reliable employee in this company." Naturally, you feel proud. Then comes the next sentence. Could you stay 3 extra hours tonight? The compliment wasn't the goal. The extra work was. The praise simply lowered your defenses. Advertisers use similar techniques. Influencers use them. Even some salespeople use them. They first make you feel special. Then they ask for something. Understanding this pattern doesn't mean becoming suspicious of everyone. It simply means asking yourself one important question. Is this compliment genuine, or does it come with a hidden price? One of the most dangerous things about manipulation is that each technique seems harmless by itself. One guilty sentence doesn't seem dangerous. One lie doesn't seem dangerous. One ignored message doesn't seem dangerous. One small compliment doesn't seem dangerous. But manipulation is rarely about one moment. It's about patterns. Patterns repeated over weeks, months, sometimes years. Imagine a spider building a web. One thread seems weak. It can easily break. But thousands of threads together create something much stronger. Manipulation works the same way. Each emotional trick is one tiny thread. Eventually, the victim feels trapped inside a web they never noticed being built. And perhaps the saddest part is this. Many victims continue defending the very person who is manipulating them. Not because they're weak, but because manipulation changes the way people think. It creates confusion, hope, fear, guilt, and emotional dependence. Little by little, the victim begins believing that leaving the relationship would hurt more than staying. That is why manipulation is so difficult to recognize from the inside. From the outside, people often ask, why don't they just leave? But when you're inside the situation, nothing feels simple anymore. Your emotions become stronger than your logic. And that's exactly where manipulators want you to be. When you first meet someone, you may think they're simply being friendly. But sometimes they're collecting information. They notice what makes you happy. They notice what makes you nervous. They notice what makes you emotional. Without realizing it, you begin telling them everything. Your childhood, your biggest dreams, your biggest fears, your past heartbreak, your family problems, your financial struggles. Healthy people listen because they care. Manipulators listen because information is power. Imagine giving someone the instruction manual to your emotions. Now they know exactly which buttons to press. If they know you fear being abandoned, they threaten to leave. If they know you fear disappointing people, they use guilt. If they know you struggle with confidence, they slowly criticize you until your confidence becomes even weaker. Information itself is not dangerous. Giving it to the wrong person is. This doesn't mean you should never trust anyone. Trust is necessary for healthy relationships. But trust should grow slowly, not overnight. A healthy relationship feels safe. Manipulation often feels exciting at first, and exhausting later. Have you ever noticed how some people always create drama? There is always a problem. Always an emergency. Always another crisis. At first, you feel sorry for them. You try to help. Then another problem appears, and another, and another. Soon, your entire emotional energy belongs to them. Psychologists sometimes call this emotional dependency. The manipulator becomes the center of your emotional world. You spend more time managing their emotions than your own. One day you're comforting them. The next day you're apologizing to them. The day after that you're trying to fix another problem. You become emotionally tired, but strangely, you also feel responsible for their happiness. This is another hidden sign of manipulation. Healthy relationships share responsibility. Manipulative relationships place responsibility on one person. Now imagine another situation. You receive a message. Can we talk? Nothing else. Just those 3 words. Immediately your heart beats faster. Your mind starts creating stories. Did I do something wrong? Are they angry? Is something bad about to happen? Hours later they finally reply, never mind. It seems like a small thing. But emotional uncertainty creates anxiety. Some manipulators intentionally keep people emotionally uncertain. Because uncertain people seek reassurance. And the person who gives reassurance gains emotional power. Have you noticed how unpredictable people often become unforgettable? One day they're warm. The next day they're cold. One day they praise you. The next day they ignore you. Your brain becomes confused. Instead of leaving, you try harder. Psychologists explain this using something called intermittent reinforcement. Imagine a slot machine in a casino. If it never paid money, nobody would play. If it paid every single time, people would quickly become bored. Instead, it rewards people randomly. Sometimes you win. most times you lose. Ironically, this unpredictability keeps people playing even longer. Manipulative relationships often work in the same way. Sometimes they show affection, sometimes they disappear, sometimes they make you feel incredibly important. Then suddenly they become distant. Your brain starts chasing the good moments. You think, maybe tomorrow they'll become the person they used to be. But tomorrow rarely comes. Instead, the cycle repeats again, and again, and again. One of the greatest myths about manipulation is that it only exists in romantic relationships. The truth is, it exists everywhere. At work, imagine a manager who constantly says, "We're like family here." At first, it sounds comforting. But then they expect unpaid overtime, working on weekends, answering messages late at night. Suddenly, the word family becomes a tool to make employees feel guilty for having personal lives. Families themselves can sometimes become emotionally manipulative. A parent may say, "After everything I've done for you," or "A good son would never refuse," or "A good daughter would always listen." Love becomes connected with obedience. Instead of feeling loved, the child feels obligated. As years pass, that obligation can become so normal that they never question it. They believe love must always involve sacrifice. But healthy love is not built on fear. It is not built on guilt. It is not built on emotional pressure. Real love gives freedom. Manipulation takes freedom away so slowly that many people don't even notice it disappearing. And perhaps the most dangerous moment is not when someone manipulates you for the first time. The most dangerous moment is when manipulation starts feeling normal. Because once unhealthy behavior becomes normal, you stop recognizing it as unhealthy. You simply call it, "That's just how they are." But no one deserves to constantly feel guilty. No one deserves to constantly doubt themselves. And no one deserves to lose their peace just to keep someone else happy. There is one final lesson I want you to remember. Manipulation only works when someone controls your emotions more than you do. The moment you learn to pause before reacting, the moment you stop making decisions out of guilt, the moment you realize that saying no does not make you a bad person, everything begins to change. Healthy people respect your boundaries. Manipulative people challenge them. That is one of the easiest ways to tell the difference. Remember this: you are not responsible for fixing everyone. You are not responsible for carrying someone else's emotional burden. And you are certainly not responsible for sacrificing your own peace just to keep someone else happy. If a relationship constantly leaves you feeling confused, guilty, anxious, or emotionally exhausted, take a step back and ask yourself one simple question. Am I being loved, or am I being controlled? Sometimes, that single question can change your entire life. The truth is, manipulators don't always look dangerous. They don't wear masks. They don't announce their intentions. Many of them smile. They compliment you. They promise to protect you. They make you feel special. That is why learning about manipulation is not about becoming afraid of people. It is about becoming wiser. It is about understanding human behavior. It is about protecting your peace without losing your kindness. Because kindness is not weakness. Empathy is not weakness. Forgiveness is not weakness. The real strength is knowing when to walk away from people who continuously misuse those beautiful qualities. As the famous writer Maya Angelou once said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Those simple words have helped millions of people avoid years of emotional pain. So trust actions more than promises. Trust consistency more than beautiful words. And most importantly, trust yourself. Your intuition often notices problems long before your mind is ready to accept them. The more you understand human psychology, the harder it becomes for anyone to control your emotions. And that doesn't make you cold. It makes you emotionally intelligent. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I hope this podcast not only helped you improve your English but also gave you a deeper understanding of the people around you, and perhaps even yourself. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, protect your peace. Take care, and I'll see you in the next easy and chilling topics for English podcast. Heart. If you found my video interesting, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below.